everyone, I'm Friendon. Welcome to Tree Time with Friendon. In this channel I'll teach you about trees, shrubs, grasses, everything plants, their uses, and what they look like. And for the first episode we're going to start off with one of the most versatile plants in the Northeast, and that is the white pine. Come on, let's go. So this, everyone, is a white pine, Latin name Pinus strobus. This one's a pretty small one. They actually get decently large. But the best way you could tell that it's a white pine is by the needles and the pine cones. So, pine needles grow for pine trees, grow in tufts. They call them fascicles. So you could see here on this one that there's multiple needles growing out of this thing. Here, let me see if I could get a better one for you. Oh, this, perfect. Right here, that's nice and isolated. So that grows out of that little tuft right there, and on a white pine it grows in clusters of 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 needles in one fascicle, and they're nice and thin needles. So you could look at the bark, although you really don't need the bark to be able to tell these trees apart. That's for more advanced kind of trees, but that's what the bark looks like. A little scaly. Both of these things, these are both actually 2 white pines. This one's sort of just broken up there, doing its thing. But the other way, and which is why I'm down here, is for the pine cones. And so this is a white pine cone. You've definitely seen these before. They're those typical long white pine cones. Or I should say you've definitely seen these before if you live in the Northeast. So typical long pine cones. This one's obviously dead and brown, and it's old, and it looks flaky like this, but when they're young, they're green. I'm gonna look up real quick to see if I see any, which I don't. But yeah, so they're long like these. Usually you'll see them with sap all over them, and even sometimes the tree you'll see with sap all over it, which brings me to why this tree is so special. So pines in general, you could take the needles and you can make tea out of them. Pines have a lot of vitamin C. So you take some of these, you make a nice tea out of it. You get vitamin C. It's good to know for wilderness survival or just being healthy in general. The sap is an antiseptic, and you could use it as like a salve or dressing on a wound. So you get a cut in the woods, you don't know what to do, you find a white pine, you get its sap, you put it on a cut, and then you're good to go. And then obviously, it's funny because I didn't even know this. I thought pine nuts, before I started studying trees, I didn't think pine nuts came from real pine trees. I was like, there's no way you're getting pine nuts out of these little cones. But you do. They're hard to find, especially because around here the squirrels love them. They destroy these things. But yeah, you get pine nuts, you get the needles, you get the sap, and an extra one, and this is one of my favorite things too. So you can actually eat the bark on these trees, not the outside. Oh, look, there's a little bit of sap right there, if you could see that. Yup, just a little goo. So definitely smells super piney. But yeah, so you can eat the bark, not the outside. And I apologize for breaking and hurting this tree, but so there's the outside bark, and if you could see that, here, let me try to focus this thing. Alright, if you can see that little green section in there, that's called the cambium. So the cambium on these trees are edible. And fun fact, the Adirondacks, the mountains in New York, are named after a tribe called the Adirondacks, which roughly translates in Native American to bark eater. So yeah, pine trees are pretty versatile. Now, these 2 trees right here are perfect specimens of an adult white pine. You notice how the branches grow parallel to the ground pretty much. They go straight out. They don't have that typical like Christmas tree shape, and they usually keep oblong, usually have weird shapes to them. But fun fact about white pines is they're one of the tallest growing trees in the Northeast. Some of these bad boys get well over 100 feet. So if you're out in the woods and you see just a tree towering over everything and it's an evergreen, it's most likely a white pine. I could actually see one or two from here, and what's actually really cool is I could see some larches out there too, which is pretty nice, but that's a tree we'll cover in a different day, that's for sure. So you may be wondering why we're on top of this mountain looking at these beautiful views with the sun setting on us. And yeah, of course we're here for the beautiful views, but this is where the black pine lives. Let's check it out. So this here is a black pine, and as you can see, it's growing on the side of the mountain like this. They also call them rock pines. So how the black pine differs from the white pine is the fascicles, let's see if I could find a good one, grow in clusters of 2 or 3. So you get 2 or 3 needles in these fascicles. Also, the cone is nice and stubby, it's thick. So you can also get pine nuts out of these, and I'm not entirely sure if you could eat the bark. I have to look that one up for you. But from my research, you could eat the bark out of most pines, but this is it. And they have longer, thicker needles actually. They're a little bit thicker than the white pines. So, but yeah, you'll find them on mountains like this. You see how that one down there, just literally in the side of the mountain. This one too. But yeah, that's it. There is one more type of pine that you'll find in this area, and that's called the Scotch pine. And unlike the white pine right here and the black pine right there, which are all pretty common, Scotch pine isn't too common. But so it has needles that are decently thin like the white pine, but it has fascicles, the needles grow in fascicles of 2 or 3 like the black pine. But the key difference is on the top of it, when these pines get big, instead of it being a nice gray color like this, the bottom stays like that. But the top gets a nice orangey Scotch red. I'm pretty sure they call it a Scotch pine because it's from like Scotland, but it does have like a Scotch color to it. So if you see one of those, that's another kind of pine, and they're pretty cool. I really like those pines. They're my favorite pine for sure. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is called trash. Always pick up your trash, never leave it on here. Who brings Wendy's out into the middle of the woods? Are you kidding me? Grinds my gears. Just as a quick little extra for you guys, here's a pretty full-grown black pine back at the parking lot. That's Perkins Tower in the background. But these things don't get too big, but they look pretty scraggly themselves. Alrighty guys, back in my car, about to head out. That's it for this episode of Tree Time with Friendin. Hope to catch you on the next one. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, ask me anything. Friends used to call me the Lorax, so I know a lot about trees. Take it easy, guys.